Sindo Jagatpate Kopisa Kopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanjana Gauravangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhayeva Patitam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sripasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Rama
Hare Krishna Shashwin, thank you very much for reciting the Mangalacharan. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 19. Chapter 19 is the appearance of Sukdev Goswami. And today we'll be doing two texts, Prabhuji, because the purports are very short, 11 and 12.
Yes.
Prabhuji, would you like us to read the texts and translation and purport and hand over to you?
Yes.
Okay, Prabhuji. So, Shashwin, are you able to read text 11? With
Yes,
starting
Mataji.
from Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayesva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Kaustiki Hare Krishna. Anye cha devarsi brahmarsi varya Rajarsi varya arunadayascha Nanarseya pravaran samvitan Abhyarchiya raja sirasya Vavande Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shashwin, for reading the Mangalacharan and then reading text 11. Prabhuji, should I read the translation and purport?
Yes. Or
okay,
anyone else.
Is there anybody who can read the translation and purport of text 11? Prashanatma Prabhu, are you able to do that? Or Pramila Mataji?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
And the pronouns. Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There were also many other saintly demigods, kings, and special royal orders called Arunadayas, a special rank of Raja Rishis from different dynasties of sages. When they all assembled together to meet the Emperor Parikshit, he received them properly and bowed his head to the ground. Purport. The system of bowing the head to the ground to show respect to superiors is an excellent etiquette which obliges the honored guest deep into the heart. Even the first grade offender is excused simply by this process. And Maharaj Parikshit, although honored by all the rishis and kings, welcomed all the big men in that humble etiquette in order to be excused from any offenses. Generally, at the last stage of one's life, this humble method is adopted by every sensible man in order to be excused before departure. In this way, Maharaj Parikshit implored everyone's goodwill for going back home, back to Godhead.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prashanatma Prabhu, for reading the text and purport. Prabhuji, shall we read text 12 or should we hand over to you?
Yeah, let's go on to text 12.
Is anybody there who can read text 12? Would anybody like to read? Okay, Shashwin, are you able to read text 12? Hare Krishna.
Krishna Mataji, Saswin is gone, Mataji.
Okay, okay. Maybe I can read the text 12. Shukopavitste swa athateshu bhuvya krita pranama swachitiristam yatha vijnapayam ashavikitshacheta upastito gre brigitya paniha. Would anybody like to read the translation and purport of text 12? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I can read it if that's okay.
Okay, okay, please do.
Just the translation or both?
Mataji, both translation and purport.
Okay. Hare Krishna. The
Hare
translation
Krishna.
by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After all the rishis and others had seated themselves comfortably, the king, humbly standing before them with folded hands, told them of his decision to fast until death. Purport. Although the king had already decided to fast until death on the banks of the Ganges, he humbly expressed his decision to elicit the opinions. Am I reading the right one? Yeah. He humbly expressed his decision to elicit the opinions of the great authorities present there. Any important decision, however firmly fixed, should be confirmed by some authority. That makes the matter perfect. This means that the monarchs who ruled the earth in those days were not irresponsible dictators. They scrupulously followed the authoritative decisions by the saints and sages in terms of Vedic. Maharaj Parikshit, as a perfect king, followed the principles by consulting the authorities, even up to the last days of his life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I'm having internet challenges. I'm using my phone and the computer to record and the phone to speak. So in case I get logged out, Panchali Mataji, kindly take over. I'm here, but just in case if I have any challenges. So, Prabhuji, we've read the text 11 and 12. So we are now handing
Yes.
over to you. Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's good to be back with the devotees. Thank you so much for having me here. Can you hear what I'm saying?
Yes,
So this
Prabhuji.
is really
Yeah.
this is really the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The sages at Dina Sharana were asking Sutta Goswami questions, and they asked about the Pandavas, and they had a number of questions concerning Krishna, and they wanted to hear as much as possible the science of Krishna. So this chapter, the appearance of Shukadev Goswami, is really the beginning of the conversation between Shukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. Here, Maharaj Parikshit somehow was in the forest, and he made that mistake of putting a dead snake around a sage's neck, which was very unusual. Usually he would never do such a thing. But somehow by the arrangement of Krishna, his intelligence was not working very good. He was tired, hungry, and thirsty. So this is a good point for us. It's very important to keep our mind and intelligence clear, to keep our mind and intelligence working as best as possible. So Maharaj Pariksit, he was hungry and thirsty, very tired. And we know when our body is very tired, our mind is very tired, we don't act the same, we don't think the same. It's very common. We tell children or someone else, even adults, that I think you should take a nap because you're not functioning like you usually do. So if our brain is not working right, then we can make wrong decisions and suffer, which is one big reason why we avoid intoxicants. Of course, how can anything go very well if we have a cloudy mind, a foggy brain? That won't work. So somehow Maharaj Pariksit, he made a mistake and he ended up being cursed, actually, by the son of the Brahmin, that he would die within 7 days. So he accepted that as his destiny. He accepted it humbly, that I deserve this. I've made a mistake, very bad mistake. Actually, I should suffer worse. So he felt like that, which is a good example. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the this chapter is at the 12th chapter, and the 12th chapter is all about devotional service. So in that 12th chapter, there are many very specific instructions how a devotee thinks, how they feel, what they do, what they don't do. So that 12th chapter is very, very useful for day-to-day life. So in one purport, I think it's the purport to the 8th verse, somewhere there. So Srila Prabhupada writes, or Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, that an advanced devotee does not become upset, very much upset when there is some setback. Often when there's something doesn't go right, people get upset and they curse, and but or they become depressed. So that's very common. But Srila Prabhupada writes that a devotee, because of their spiritual wisdom, even if there's some challenges, they understand that there's no one at fault but me. There's no one to yell at. There's no one to blame but the person I see in the mirror every morning. Because no one is responsible for my life except me. So now someone may say, yes, but what if some criminal attacks you on the street, steals your purse, hits you, knocks you to the ground? So what about that? Shouldn't they be punished? Of course they should. They must be punished. It is their destiny, their karma, that to be involved in that. And they must experience the reaction, good or bad. But at the same time, Lord Krishna explains, the devotee thinks, I must have stolen someone's purse myself. I must have knocked someone down. So I should not become very angry or vengeful. Vengeful. Let me get back at this. They're talking bad at me at the office. Well, maybe you talked bad about someone at some point in time. So why are you getting so upset? So this is spiritual wisdom, but that doesn't mean that we have to just take it or put up with it. We can take action. We can attempt to stop someone from bothering us, but at the same time, we can remain more peaceful, not blaming them entirely. I'm responsible. So I'll be very careful not to treat anyone like this again, and then it won't happen to me. So Maharaj Pariksit, he is giving us that example. He's very awake in spiritual wisdom, and he's realized, not just theoretically, but he's practiced. He's practiced to live in this kind of thinking pattern. So we all, me and all of us, we all have every day an opportunity to practice. We practiced living in wisdom, acting in wisdom instead of acting in passion or ignorance, acting impulsively or acting stupidly, but instead trying to act in the light of wisdom. And so we practice, and it becomes easier as we practice it. So Maharaj Pariksit, he is so practiced that even he's cursed. He's cursed to die. He's forced to give up his kingdom, his wife's children, everything. So he knows that either today or tomorrow we will leave this world. Now it's my time. And actually, I'm lucky. I'm actually lucky that I have a warning, just like sometimes people get a diagnosis that you have a terminal disease and you have 6 months, 9 months, 1 year to live. So that's sad and painful news. But on the other hand, we have an opportunity to prepare for our departure. And so that's what he is doing. He is preparing for his departure. So in the purport of text 11, Srila Prabhupada writes, or let's look at the verse where it says that there were many great persons assembled, and the emperor received them properly and bowed his head to the ground. And Srila Prabhupada writes that this obliges the honored guest. Even a first-grade offender is excused simply by this process. And although Maharaj Pariksit was honored by all the rishis and kings, he welcomed them in order to be excused from offenses. So this is another aspect of human wisdom. And most people do think about, they feel bad when they know they make a mistake. They yell at someone unnecessarily, or they talk meanly, or they somehow cheat someone. Most people will feel bad. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then there's some people who don't. And it has effect. If we don't clear the air, like suppose at work, in the office or someplace, or in the neighborhood, the neighbor, we have some disagreement, and then there's tension. The neighbor's not talking to you, you're not talking to the neighbor. There's some ill feelings. There's a tendency to get revengeful. Other family, the whole family of the neighbor, the husband, the wife, the children, the aunts, the uncle, everyone can get involved. It can become a big mess. So it's good to clear the air, to keep things friendly. And so that means that we may have to take the first step. Sometimes we don't want to do that. No, they should apologize. I'm not going to apologize. They're the one who started the whole thing. They're the one who's to blame. And that's understandable. But really, as it said, I forget the phrase, but you have to be a big person to take the first step to clear the air. That this person's not going to apologize probably, and so let me do it. Even really, they should apologize first. I'm going to be the on the higher level, and I'm going to ignore my own feelings and act wisely. Let me deflate this tension, because it's not good for them and it's not good for me. We're not talking to the neighbors, we're not talking to our co-workers, not talking to children, our husband or our wife. So this is the higher level, that I will take the first step. And often that begins humbly. Even we may not think that it's the reality, but it is very powerful that we go to someone and we say, I'm sorry for my part in this disagreement. I don't like how we're We have this tension between us, and I apologize. And by our taking the humble position and apologizing, even though really the other person should apologize, very, very often this will motivate the other person to apologize also. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I acted like a jerk. I'm very sorry. This isn't very good. And you discuss what happened and how it can be avoided. So it's being the larger person, the bigger person. The smaller people, they they take, I was hurt and they have to apologize first, and all of that. And so it's better to do it the other way. So Maharaj Pariksit, he was cursed, and he was thinking very humbly that I make mistakes. I'm a human. I make mistakes. So let me even ask for forgiveness for things I don't know I did. And so that's what he was doing. He was apologizing, whatever offenses I made. If I've done anything, I apologize for that. And so then it is described here that generally a good person will respond that, oh no, that's all right. We forgive you. Now, why can this be critical? Why can this be something which is not just polite, but if we don't do it, it could bring serious loss to our life. Just like a father or a mother. So if you do something that hurts the child, the child might not get upset too much, but the parents will get very upset. And the parents can certainly do things that in retaliation or in response that the child can't do. So therefore, the idea, the understanding that a devotee, someone who has a good relationship of devotion to Krishna, if we offend them, they may not say much, but it's not the best way to get on Krishna's good side to make offense, especially to the spiritual master and advanced devotees, preachers of Krishna consciousness, any devotee. And on that note, we may reflect that there are there's 7 kinds of gurus. The guru is not just the one who is teaching about bhakti. Who remembers some of the 7 gurus? They are described in the, not 7 gurus. Actually, I don't know the number, but there's several types of classes of people who are to be considered equal to guru, assuming that they're religious. So who are they? Other than the spiritual master, who else should be considered guru?
Well, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's 24 different gurus.
Yeah, I think is that from the 11th canto?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's in respect to those who we can learn from them. But I'm thinking, I mean, that's true, but I'm thinking of something more direct. Just like one's elder brother should be considered, by guru, I mean equal, worthy of respect, like Krishna. One's elder brother.
Mother, husband.
Mother, husband, correct. The king is to be respected as one would respect Krishna, specifically if they're following religious principles, even if they're not. In Lord Chaitanya's time, there was Islamic kings, Muslim rulers, and of course they were meat eaters and sinful in various ways. But Lord Chaitanya instructed his followers, don't cheat the government, don't avoid paying your taxes, thinking that, well, this is just a sinful king. No, even this king who's sinful, still, from a certain perspective, represents Krishna. Yeah, so we should be very careful about that. That, well, this is just a sinful person. I'm not going to pay the money that I owe them. No, no. So there are different persons in our life who should be very highly respected. Of course, the spiritual master. And on that note, I originally was thinking of this number 7. There are 7 kinds of mothers. So let's remember those. Of course, there is one's natural mother. What are the other 6 mothers? Let's see if we can remember them.
Cow.
Cow.
Cow, earth,
Cow and earth. Nurse.
Nurse.
Wife of a Brahmana.
Okay, that's 5.
Wife of a Guru.
6.
Queen.
I'm not sure I can remember the 7th.
The
So we have
queen.
the earth, the nurse, the wife of the guru, the wife of the spiritual master, one's natural mother.
Wife of a king.
Maybe. If someone remembers exactly, you can tell us. But I bring this up because it is said that the whole battle of Kurukshetra, the cause of it was the offense to Draupadi. That was the final big thing that caused the war. That when Dushasana and Dronacharya offended Draupadi, who was so chaste, then Krishna decided, that's it. You are going to be annihilated. So it is said to make offense to a chaste woman is very dangerous. Krishna takes that very seriously. Offenses to gurus, offenses to our elders, offenses to our parents, and offenses to women and children and elderly people. They, because they are, in general, dependent. The children are dependent, the wife or woman is dependent, the elderly are dependent. Therefore, to hurt them has even more karma, bad karmic effect than hurting someone else. So we should be very careful. So Maharaj Parikshit, so we should be careful to clear our offenses. That if we think that by mistake we may have offended, especially these people that we have just discussed, the 7 kinds of mothers, the different gurus, devotees, spiritual master, we should be careful to clear that, at least within our heart. We may not be able to talk to them directly, but within our heart, we can picture them and apologize. And we can also apologize to Krishna, saying, I recognize I have done this thing. I'm sorry. Please help me not to do it again. And that will go a long way to clear our offense, just by recognizing that. And it's very important in general, even in just everyday life, that we do not, as they say, beat ourselves up. Oh, I'm a horrible person. I yelled at my mother. I'm terrible. And we go on and on about it. That's actually counterproductive. But we should recognize, oh, this is a very wrong thing, and apologize and think how I can avoid doing that again. And then we pick up and move on. And then we may also do some penance to just make the point to ourselves that I'm not going to eat biscuits for a week, just to impress it on my mind that this is a very wrong thing I did. Yes, we see in the lives of the devotees of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya's time that they would self-discipline themselves. And people do this, I think, sometimes. They self-discipline themselves. And I don't deserve, this thing. I'm going to avoid it for some time or whatever. Otherwise, just to carry on our life as if nothing happened may let our mind think that nothing happened. right? That's why that's discipline. We discipline children, criminals are disciplined. So it makes an impression that it's not life as usual, or it wasn't nothing what I did. What I did was a serious thing, and I need to take it seriously. So Maharaj Pariksit, he is offering his respects, hoping to be excused, and also to get their blessings. The blessings of other humans are not nothing. Specifically, religious people who follow religious principles, when they give us good wishes, I hope you do well in school, I hope your marriage is successful, may you be happy, it counts for something because Krishna cares. Krishna cares about them, especially, and he's inclined to fulfill their, oh, you're giving, you wish this couple good marriage, okay, I will offer some extra help, which, as we discussed some months ago, when someone leaves this world, we can do some special pious activities and pray Krishna that may this go to them. You know, we observe Ekadasi, or observe Ekadasi more strictly, or we chant some extra japa, or we give some donation, thinking in their name, may they get the benefit of this charity. And it's not a waste of our time to do that. So Maharaj Pariksit, he was aware of all that, and he's showing us a good example of asking forgiveness and looking for blessings, because he knows he's going to leave this world. When Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada's father was leaving this world, maybe the day before, the night before, very not long, he instructed Srila Prabhupada, you give a cow away in charity. Because he knew, I am leaving. And there are not many things, if anything, that are more pious and pleasing to Krishna than giving someone a cow or something for cow protection. That's true. Actually, if there's some dangerous situation or some challenges in our life, we feel like the world is crashing in. One of the best things we can do is, however much, we give some donation for cow protection. Actually, it's said that protecting cows is even higher than caring for a Brahmin. So it's very, very powerful. I've done it myself a few times, and I feel like it works. You know, it's so very pleasing to Krishna. So any questions so far on this text 11?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Sorry,
Yes.
my device is echoing. You said that whoever has made a mistake should be punished. So in this case, did the king punish Shingi?
Well, there are different ways of dealing. The Krishna conscious way of disciplining a Brahmin or a son of a Brahmin or a devotee is, of course, different than for non-devotees. They have to be dealt with very gently, because they are dear to Krishna. Even they make a mistake, but still, just like Ashwatthama, he was the son of a Brahmin, so he was not to be killed, even though he murdered the sons of Draupadi, but he was driven out of the area to just travel on his own, which he did for a long time. So, yeah. So the punishment for someone of Brahminical nature, or son of a Brahmin, son of a devotee, daughter of a devotee, has to happen, but not in as little of a harsh way as possible. Just like sometimes people move into the temple, even initiated devotees are there, Brahminically initiated devotees, and somehow they get involved in wrong activities, sinful activities, and they can't stay in the temple. So we don't just grab them by the neck and throw them on the street, but they have to go. Just like the example is given, Lord Chaitanya and his father. So Lord Chaitanya. So when his father would discipline Lord Chaitanya, it was very gentle. He said, I'm your father, so I must do this. I apologize, but you're my son. And then he would discipline him. So like that, everyone has to be dealt with appropriately. And if someone is abusing us physically or seriously emotionally again, then we call the police. It doesn't matter who they are. We shouldn't think, oh, they're to be respected. If they're acting like a criminal somehow, they must be dealt with. Does that help?
Yes, Prabhuji, it
Yeah,
helps.
like sometimes we hear, even I've heard, people of the Christian faith, especially, sometimes someone runs over their daughter or somehow hurts them, and they're in court and they're in a lawsuit, or the person's being sentenced to jail, but they say, I forgive you. I understand somehow there's a larger destiny here. And so I'm not going to hold this anger and this hate in my heart for the rest of my life. I'm not going to let you do that to me. And perhaps the person is coming from some bad back. So they find some compassion, but discipline has to happen. You can't be sentimental, just like that example of Ashwatthama. So Draupadi, as it was described there, because of her compassionate feminine nature, she just wanted to let him go. But that really wasn't the right thing, although it was nice of her. So Srila Prabhupada writes there, as some of us may remember, he says, we have to be guided by our good intelligence and not just our sentiments, either good or bad. We may become very angry. Oh, let me, jump on this person and beat them. But that may not be the right thing to do. It all comes to Krishna consciousness. What should I do? If we're Krishna conscious enough, we will know what to do, or we will ask someone. Everything becomes much clearer in the mode of goodness, right? Because in the Bhagavad Gita, it says in the mode of passion and ignorance, goodness is taken for badness, badness is taken for goodness. People don't know what is religious, what is not religious, whether to turn left or turn right. That's another reason to keep our principles very solid, and that goes back to what we started this whole lecture about, or discussion, right? Maharaj Pariksit, he wasn't in his right mind. So even I knew I worked for someone, and he was trying to be a better person. So he would tell us, the employees, he would say, I have to excuse myself. I'm not going to be talking to you the way I should talk to you. Let me go away for a little while, then I'll come back. So he had that sense to understand, I'm not in my right mind, and I'm going to say something that's not good. So that's good with our children, with our parents, with our husband, with our wife. As they say, count to 10, take a walk. I need to take a walk for a little while. I need to have some time, and then we can discuss this. Because otherwise it could end up so bad for no good reason, right? We've seen that. Someone is not irritable, not in a good mood, or we're not able to have a rational discussion, right? And then words start flying, and pretty soon it's just awful, right? Between children and parents, between husband and wife. So people, this is another point. Well, what's the value of Krishna consciousness? You're just living for the future. You know, when you die, you'll go to a better place. You're giving up so many things. How do you know it's true? You're just living for the future. No, we're not just living for the future. Our life now, week by week, is better than it might otherwise be. We have a sharper brain, more peaceful mind, and our life in general goes on better than it might without Krishna consciousness. So that's how we can respond to that. And it's true. We're not just saying something. Right? I think all of us have experience that, you know, with good sadhana, we think better and we make better decisions, right? Okay, we'll go on to the next text, unless someone has another question. So in the next text, the verse is that Maharaj Pariksit, even though he's already decided to fast until he leaves this world, still he's asking the advice of all these learned people. And of course, that's a good thing to do. Srila Prabhupada writes that it's responsible to take the opinions of others. Any important decision, however firmly fixed, should be confirmed by some authority. As devotees, we know this gives Krishna a chance to talk to us, so to speak. Should I take this job? Should I marry this person? And so we should ask a few persons, what do you think? And hear what they have to say, even if we've already decided. So it's said, and it's true, that rulers, politicians, or owners of big companies, they keep people near them who they know don't like them. Because, number one, they can keep track of what they may be doing, but also because these persons will usually tell them the truth. They won't just say something to make them feel good. So if you go to someone and ask their advice who doesn't particularly like you or something, then they may actually express the real something very true about you that you might not hear from a friend, a so-called friend. Sometimes friends are hesitant to say things that might hurt us. Just a side point. But the main point is to take the opinions of others and not think that we're, even if we are, you know, even if we are have above average intelligence and we're good, you know, we have good brains and we usually do think the right thing. Who knows? We could be missing something, and it helps us to practice humility too. That even just to do it, that I'm thinking of doing this. You know, what do you think about that? So Maharaj Pariksit, he was a great king, and back in those days, the kings were guided by Brahmins. I think I shared this not long time ago, but maybe a couple of years ago, whenever I started with this service, that I had seen one movie at some point, and it was set in Delhi. I think in the 1500s, when there were Islamic rulers from Turkey, and it's a true story. So there was one king, I forget his name, and he was ruling in Delhi and many parts of India. So he had a daughter who was very strong-minded, and she was very, in America, they would say a tomboy, or wanting to do everything that boys do, and she was like that. So just like in the, so, you know, we say Hindu culture, Vedic culture. So also in the Islamic culture, the women are usually, it's not the usual culture that they take a leading position in politics, and they do all the same things that men do. So there was so the Brahminical council, so she was doing some things that were outrageous a little bit. And she wanted to compete in some contest, and she would have some kind of leadership position if she won. So the culture was that she could not do that because she was a woman. She was female. And the king called the Brahmin, his religious advisors, to give their opinion. So they said like this, that, this is the situation. This is not our religious principles, because you're born of a woman, and women are less. So she was very sharp, and she said, "Oh, okay. So then the king is less because he was born of a woman." So that defeated their argument completely. So you say women are so incapable and so less, and etc. Well, what about all of you men are born of women? So what do you say about that? So she defeated them in that way. Good argument, when someone says like that. Oh, really? Where were you born from? Huh? So Maharaj Pariksit, he was taking advice, and all good kings, even nowadays, prime ministers and presidents, they have some kind of board. Companies always have a board of directors, big companies that meet yearly or twice a year to decide major programs. So this is not an uncommon thing, and something that we should follow in the footsteps. So any discussion or questions, comments?
Are there any questions or comments?
So as I was saying, so this begins really the Srimad Bhagavatam. Maharaj Pariksit is going to sit down to fast, and Shukadeva Goswami is going to arrive in the next verse or two and answer the questions Maharaj Pariksit is going to ask, and that's the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. The questions between Maharaj Pariksit and Shukadeva Goswami, which we are hearing through the next level of Sutta Goswami and the sages of Dina Sharana. And so fascinating, so well written is this Srimad Bhagavatam, that Shukadeva Goswami is going to quote so many other conversations in those conversations, because it's all based upon authority or authorized wisdom, which is what Srila Prabhupada is saying in this purport, that we should get direction from someone who has the capability of giving us good advice. We don't go to the person, we don't ask our neighbor about some serious medical operation if they're not a surgeon. Right now, people have their opinions. Well, I think this, and I think that, and we're entitled to, but we want to find out the best learned person to give us advice on anything, whatever it is. I mean, that makes good sense. And as I have mentioned before, when we're speaking to someone, especially someone familiar with Hinduism, familiar with spirituality of India, many do not know, or they're not aware of the authority of Srila Vyasadeva. Where all of this, people talk so many things, they bandy about, Lord Shiva this, and Ganeshji this, and this puja, and Hatha Yoga, and Raja Yoga, and Kundalini, and so many things people talk about, and pranayama. But even yoga teachers, very often do not know where all of that comes from. It's taken somewhat superficially, and they learn it from some teacher, and some do, but most don't. So when we're speaking with someone, it is often good to establish the authority. Someone asked me, is the worship of Lord Shiva higher than Krishna? Or who are the demigods, Ganesh and Durga, compared to Vishnu? And the first thing that I do most of the time is I say, well, we need to hear from the one who gave us those words. Gave us those words? Yes. Srila Vyasadeva. Without him, there's nothing to talk about. There's no pranayam, there's no yoga, there's no Shiva, there's no nothing. He is the authority, directly and indirectly. I don't know. What do I know? What does your uncle know? Who is the Pandit on the corner compared to Srila Vyasadeva? So this is a very powerful method to quickly cut down to the very root of, hopefully, if the person is sincere and honest, then you can have a discussion. Because we meet so many people, and understandably, they've grown up in a certain neighborhood, or they have a family guru, or they have a culture, and we respect that. But unfortunately, many times that religious culture has mistaken ideas. It's not completely correct. And sometimes I will say that. I'm sorry if this may be a little shocking, but actually, it could be that some of the things that you've learned and that you understand they're not actually correct academically or technically. It's the way I put it is that it's common understanding. There's just people have common understanding, which is not academically or strictly speaking correct. And if you put it gently, with respect for their feelings, because it's a lot to swallow. Someone has spent their whole life, 20, 30, 40 years doing puja of Lord Shiva, or they're very devoted to Ganesh. You cannot just step on that or try and rip it away, but rather just to introduce the facts that I just want to share with you, some facts. And the original source of all of this information is Srila Vyasadeva, and he gave us all the Vedas. And the final, he says, the final summary is this Bhagavad Purana. It is he says, this is my final bottom line on Indian spirituality. And so he's the authority. So, and I say to people, oh, you go, I give them the website. You go and see for yourself. You read, you hear Srila Vyasadeva. What do I know? What do I know? I have nothing really to say, but I'm just delivering what I understand to be the truth. So if we put it like, it is sometimes called the chopping method. People are arguing and back because they're thinking they're the authority, or their uncle, or their pandit, or who knows. So you just chop that down. You just cut it at the very root and bring the whole conversation to this point. And so it can be very effective, unless the person is just, out of their mind. Or yes, I have said, usually young people, 18, 19 years old. So you think you're more learned than Srila Vyasadeva, is that right? You think your opinion is? They say yes. So what can you do? But many people, I didn't know that. Or if they don't, because the thing is, we may know this, we may say something to someone. We may give some, what we think is good advice and they don't respond, or they don't say, oh, that's a good idea. But they often will think about it. And then sometimes you see them changing what they're doing because they thought about it. And, they weren't ready to say it to you, but it can have effect even into the future. Yeah. Just like long ago on Harinam, we go out with a book table and you have big crowds, or you have some crowds, you're chanting and some crowds, and you stop to say something for 2 minutes. And sometimes someone will start arguing or criticizing or something, and you respond to them, but they won't admit that they were mistaken. But everyone who's listening will hear it. You see? So it's not just about convincing someone at the office or convincing our relative, but people around us also. You see, just like Maharaj Pariksit. So they're having this conversation, and so many of these personalities are hearing the wisdom too. Even now, so we're talking. So there may be people in our house who are not directly listening, but it's out there in the atmosphere. So we should stop here. It's late. Any other comments or discussion?
I don't think there are any comments or discussion. Panchali Mataji, are you able to close this session, please, and thank Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, yes. Are you going, Prabhuji? Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
No, there's a question from my wife Rangavalli. She will ask.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Usually I have come across few people who are already chanting, they are practicing, and suddenly when they lose someone very close ones, loved ones, they become, opposite. They say, oh, I did so much of chanting, I used to do services, and what Krishna has given me, there's nothing like that. So how to bring them back? Because I feel very sorry for them, but I want them to come back. But it's very difficult for us to convince them sometimes if something like that happens.
As much as we may understand it would be a good thing. Well, one thing that comes to my mind that I think of, it's in the Bhagavad Gita that Srila Prabhupada writes about. Bhaktosi me sakacheti. It's a line from the fourth chapter. Lord Krishna says, I shall now describe the science of bhakti because you are my devotee and my friend. Bhaktosi Saki. So this principle that no one listens to us unless we're friends, right? Even it's said that with our teenage children, especially, as they get older and they get their self-will, it's good to be friendly. And it's always good to have a friendship with our children, to be a friend. So they feel, oh, this is my friend. Because if or when they go off and do their own things, instead of nagging them or, telling them the same thing every time we see them, we're just friends. Whatever you're doing, okay, I want you to be happy. I want you to be safe. And we be friendly. Then, because of that friendship, that keeps the door open. That, at some point, hopefully, they'll listen, they'll think, But if there isn't that friendly connection, then it shuts the door. So for devotees like that, we want to just be friendly. Whatever you're doing, all right. I wish you well. Have them over for prasadam, maybe, if they will. Don't talk about Krishna. Forget about Krishna. Just be a friend. How's your family? How's your car? Just forget about Krishna, perhaps, with some of them. And just be a friend, an ordinary person. And that can often be very powerful.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Sometimes it's something I've I'm learning, and I did learn, it can be counterproductive to just push and push, even though we think it's a good idea.
I think the more we push, they close the doors for us.
Yeah, so we have to be, we have to pray and use our common sense. And even, it may seem that we're encouraging them to stay as they are, and maybe we are, but it's with a higher purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is Krishna's method. I said, I'm telling you because you're my friend. No one else is going to listen.
Yeah.
That's, when we meet anyone, we want to first, establish some friendly connection. Who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing? And then we can try and introduce something because they like us. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good question. Good question.
Hare Krishna, Panchali Mataji, go ahead, Mataji. Sorry.
It's okay, Prabhuji. Would you want to close, or would you want?
No, you can close the session, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Dina Sharana, Prabhuji, thank you very much for the wonderful session as always, and for taking us through how Maharaj Parikshit accepted his faith, and also through him gave us an example of how to behave in adverse situations and taking it all as Krishna's mercy. And also what I particularly liked was the fact how we should be vigilant about everybody's behavior, include our behavior, how we behave towards others, and how we repent, how we ask for mercy and forgiveness from Krishna. How doing service to the cow or giving donation towards cow service is considered to be the highest kind of charity and pleases Krishna the most. So thank you for that, Prabhuji, and also making us aware that there is a cutting point as to where we have to accept the fact that things, despite the fact that there are devotees, perhaps it's time, there's always the chance for forgiveness, but that perhaps there's the chance of taking things to higher authorities or senior devotees to ask for their advice on what to do if someone is not behaving according to Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for taking us through that. I request all the devotees to please unmute and glorify Dina Sharana Prabhuji with Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Panchakalpatarubhyascha Sindhubhyascha Patitanam Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Grace Dina Sharana Prabhuji ki jai.
Thank you so much for having me with you. I wish everyone a safe and good week, and remember Krishna, and I hope I can be allowed to come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We'll see you next week, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji and Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Mataji, for ending the session. Thank you, Arya Govind Prabhu, for your contribution. And Dandvat Pranam to Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare. Mataji, there's someone in the chat asking for the YouTube page. I don't know if it can be texted.
What is the question?
He's asking what's the YouTube page for these classes.
Okay,
It's
so
Chandni
okay, I will send Chandni Mataji the YouTube link. Hare Krishna. I can't do it because I'm not in front of my computer, but I'll send it to her on WhatsApp. Thank you, Prabhuji, for pointing that out. Hare Krishna, Chandni Mataji. I'll send it to you. Hare Krishna. I'm ending the session. Hare Krishna.